Hi Charlotte, it's Nick. How are you?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Slightly concerned about the state of the world, but
Oh my goodness me! I mean, I feel now like I was being a little bit trite last week when I said, "Who knows what things will look like by next week?"
yeah,
And then look at us now.
yeah. I was thinking about that earlier. I spoke to you on in messages on Thursday with the view
Yeah,
to speaking on Friday, and yeah, as you said, you said let's leave it till Tuesday. So much has happened since then from the government, from around the world, societally, economically, obviously, health wise with everybody.
yeah.
How is it for you at the moment in terms of your business?
I think probably, like most people would say, is the unknown at the moment that we don't know what will happen in the next few weeks.
Yeah,
I feel like probably on my own social media and from lots of friends, all I keep hearing is companies are laying off. Obviously, driving to work in the car this morning, I feel like any other day, one of those stories would have been major news.
yes,
And today they're just reeling off.
yeah,
Carphone Warehouse shutting all their shops, 3,000 people losing their job, BA laying people off for 2 months on unpaid. You just think any other day would be huge. And today it just feels like the news just keeps coming.
yeah. And it's the fear of what's next to come as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And you do feel a responsibility to everyone that you employ, all to keep them safe, but also because, they all want to get paid and they're all worried as well.
So what's that part like? Obviously, I'd like to speak about the whole socioeconomic side as well, but just
Yes.
specifically to your business. Did you say you employ around 90 people? Is that right?
Yes.
How is that affecting people? Are people to begin with? Is anybody self isolating in your work, or is it?
They're actually not at the moment, and I'm amazed. Every day we have this chat at 9 o'clock and think, has anyone called in yet and said they're not coming in? Nobody has at the moment.
Yeah,
We haven't got a single person that's been self-isolating. Our main concern is we have some members of staff that we've classed as vulnerable.
yeah,
We also have a few difficult situations where people are not vulnerable themselves but have vulnerable people in their families or have close contact with those vulnerable people. And they're probably the ones that it's been quite difficult to make decisions about because you're just so unclear, really. I feel like every day you call NHS 111, you get different different answers to whether you should be. The guidance just keeps changing every day.
yes, it does. Yeah, there's
So that's
definitely no
quite hard to
continuity.
keep up on top of.
Yeah. Even since we spoke on Thursday, today's Tuesday, the 17th of March. On last Thursday, this was before we had heard the idea of herd immunity, which obviously
Yeah.
came in, was absolutely smashed down by everybody from the WHO and the rest of Europe and every other country. And then since then, they've said it's not really their thing. It's just something that they looked through, etc. And they didn't have the science to back it up, and they said they were going to release it, and they didn't, etc. So yeah, I mean, there's a sense of panic
There
everywhere.
definitely is that.
Yeah. I must just say, could you just tell me what your main business is? Because we haven't really introduced actually what you do and why this is relevant to you.
We haven't, no. So we are a trust corporation based in Kenilworth, so the Midlands. We have one head office, I guess, that employs 90 people across a number of departments. Our main business is all sorts of private client services, so drafting of wills, power of attorney, all sorts of related documents. We have a live trust department, so we manage smaller private family trusts in the main,
Yeah.
which hold investments. We are also involved in house selling and buying. We have a conveyancing department that deals with sales of property,
Right.
purchases of property.
When my partner's dad died a few years ago and he hadn't done a will, this was the first time I'd really been aware of how complicated it is,
Yeah.
and all the steps, and obviously the problems with not having had a will. My mum and dad are very, very. I mean, they save every receipt and they're really on it. So I think they've already done their wills probably 100 times over. How is this? Are you getting a massive influx of people inquiries at the moment, or?
We are. We're getting a lot of people that are in isolation or have now been told that they have to isolate for a number of weeks are worried. I think because of the guidance, they perceive themselves as being vulnerable, and they are concerned that they want to have things in place. I understand that a lot of NHS frontline staff have had that conversation, that really you should be looking at having your will in place when you're exposed to the level of risk that you're being exposed to every day.
Yeah.
I think people are looking at situations and thinking, what do I have to do? And one of the things that's on your list, if you think you're exposed to something that has got life-threatening implications, is getting your affairs in order, doing a will. And then I think the problem is that a lot of people are concerned to find out actually how difficult it is. So there's been a lot of talk for a long time about modernising will making, but it hasn't happened yet.
Right, okay.
And as I stand here today, and I can't see it changing anytime soon, it's a requirement under the Wills Act that you have to be in the presence of the person making the will when you're a witness to the will, and two people must be a witness.
Okay, right.
How that's going to work in when people are self-isolating or considered vulnerable and don't want to come into contact with other people, I don't quite know how that one's going to pan out yet. Wow. And I would love it if the government rushed in with some emergency legislation to sort of say, do you know what, we recognise the problems now that are actually being caused by this, and here's what we're going to do about it. House sales and purchases, again, they require, I'm not sure as I sit here right now what will happen to the housing market. We've already seen a number of calls, number of emails, number of contacts, and people saying, I'm now not going to sell my house any longer, or people that are buying that have now pulled out. Yeah. Because their livelihood is either gone or under threat. They're worried they're not going to get paid, and no one wants to commit to a house purchase when they might not have a job in 3 months' time. So I get the impression that chains are collapsing all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
And even if you could get to the point where you can actually buy a house or sell a house, we all need to sign a deed in the presence of a witness.
Okay. And I guess that's true for a lot of these important contracts and signings, that you do have to have the physical, physical witnesses.
It is. Yeah, and I just, in my own head at the moment, I just think that's presenting such a difficult problem for everybody.
It's crazy to see how things have changed since January. I spoke to two different estate agents doing it differently, having different business models. They were very excited for the year ahead. Everybody was excited for their 2020 vision, which has just completely gone out of the window. It's hard for me because I don't want this to be all about panic, but at the same time, there's not much reassurance. So I hope people can get something from it. But I was listening to another podcast about a doctor speaking to, I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he said that his mission was not to scare people out of their wits, is to scare them into their wits. It's hard to focus in these situations, but the housing situation, it seems like, every day you look on and the stock market's in free fall.
Yes.
Supply chains were stressed. Obviously, just from China shutting down, that would have taken three to 6 months, probably in a minimum, to just ease the supply chain there, everything coming back in and getting things going again. But obviously now we're shut off from Europe, we're shut off from everything. So tough times. I don't even have a question there, really. It's just me lamenting, I think.
Well, yeah, and I think that, like I said, they always say uncertainty is the worst thing for everybody. Not knowing what's going to happen is definitely the scariest thing. And everyone's looking to somebody to tell them something, anything.
Yeah.
And some reassurance. I think I never thought, like you just said, I never thought back in January we would be looking at the business and thinking, right, what is an essential operation? How can we make sure that all of our staff can work so that we can pay them? How can we make sure that we can offer services that we're having some difficulty offering because of the law? I think in the long term, I just can't see how the whole industry can't come back differently from this in 4 months' time or 5 months' time or 6 months' time, or whenever that end point or the near end point is. Everybody will have moved to a different way of working, and I think overall that will be for the better.
Right, okay. That's
once you've done that, you can't go back again. Once you've moved to technological solutions, once you've moved to something different and realise that it is possible for you to operate your business in a more remote way, I think that's better for everybody, and overall we will all end up working very differently in 6 months' time, but I don't quite know myself what that will look like at the moment.
Yeah. I've worked remotely for, I started my business in 2013. I haven't stepped in an office since that time. I'm online marketing, all of that.
Yes.
So I don't have to leave the house, which is, you know, a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
But my clients, most of them are in industries where, you know, they are customer facing, etc. So there's going to be massive changes everywhere. Are you having any issues at all with people not wanting to come to work, or is everybody getting on as normal and feeling the fear but just continuing to come to work?
Everybody's certainly at work.
Yeah.
I think as long as we're communicating with staff every day and reassuring them about what we are doing, you know, we're not taking silly risks and we're minimising risks where we can.
Yeah.
But also, I consider we're offering an important service, and that service is more in demand now than ever.
Yes.
And certainly it will be very important, I suspect, if the number of things that we're being warned could happen may go on to happen. So I consider that most of the staff, I think, are taking a view that we've got a duty to try and do what we can where we can. That might mean we all end up, you know, muddling in and doing different jobs or doing something different, but I can't see there won't be demand somewhere in the company for the work that we do.
Yeah.
And that might mean that we have a reorganisation or a quick shuffle round, but hopefully we'll be able to carry on doing everything that we are doing.
So what are the steps that somebody would take if they were looking to get their finances in order and maybe draw up a will? What would the steps be today, for example?
Contact a will drafter or an instruction taker. You will find that a lot of them are offering remote appointments now via lots of sort of online conference or online meeting facilities. Have that conversation with somebody about what it is that you want to do. It is possible to make a will by giving your instructions remotely to somebody and then having the will prepared, them emailing it or posting it to you, you printing it off or having the will there in order to be able to witness it.
Yeah.
The only slight block that I can see for some people that they will be worried about is the requirement to witness it, which means two witnesses have to be in your presence. Now, a safe, you know, distance can be maintained for social distancing purposes, I'm sure, but
Sure.
They have to see you. They have to know that it's a will that's being signed and witnessed,
Yeah.
and they have to see that person sign that document. So there is a difficulty there for some people, and I can imagine they will have a worry about that.
Yeah.
In regard to your finances, I think it's always a good idea, and hey, you know, we've all got a lot of time at home.
Yes.
In the next few weeks to start doing some of those things we never get around to. Have a list of what you've got and where you've got it. I think, again, it comes back to that thing where people are a bit shy or embarrassed to talk to their family about what they've got and where it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to cast off a bit of that British awkwardness and actually have some of those conversations with people close to us. Because I think if you can take practical steps about the things that you can do, it will make you worry less about the things that you can't control.
Yeah, absolutely. I found just over the weekend, going out and clearing some of my garden, which had some mess and took some stuff to the tip, was, you know, I just had an hour away because obviously I work from home, we have children as well, so it can all get very high octane. So just getting anything in order is definitely, you know, is a godsend at this time.
Yeah, people are going to have very tidy houses in 4 months' time.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Ultra clean, hygiene.
I do think what sent everyone over the edge of panic was the thought that this is going to last for 12 weeks. Like, I think up until then, people were quite calm, and I think at the point that they sort of stood up and said that we're now in this for 12 weeks, I think that was at the point where everyone went, oh my goodness, 12 weeks. Like, that feels like a long time now to not come out of this until halfway through June. Definitely,
yeah. I was looking at things coming out from China in January, feeling very concerned. What I was seeing on Twitter, for example, there was certain videos coming out which were very, very alarming. I actually started to get some food in at that point because my partner was just saying constantly, like, this is bad, this is bad. I started sending a few to my sister and my dad on a WhatsApp message, and my sister's response was, I've got work, I've got things to do, stop sending me this rubbish. Last Sunday was a massive change in her tone. She said, you know, Mum and Dad can't go out anymore. We've got to make sure that, you know, that they stop doing hair appointments. He shouldn't go to the pub. He's at that risk age factor, and has really changed her tune. And I think that's where obviously the panic buying's come from. Everybody suddenly really turned on from from a couple of weeks ago, where there was lots of memes and jokes and making light of the coronavirus, it seems that everybody's really started to change their tune now, which is worrying for me, because I've seen it for such a long time. I hoped I was wrong, you know.
Yes. And then when you feel like you know what's coming, I'm not sure if that's worse or better.
Yeah.
I do feel like I have been quite personally invested in it from that point of view. So I have a mother-in-law who 4 weeks ago was admitted to hospital with sepsis.
Oh, right.
And she then had pneumonia. She was only discharged from hospital last week on the basis that they were having to get everyone discharged out of hospital that they possibly could, because they don't have the bed space, and they need to free up hospital resources for the sort of influx that they're expecting. So in reality, she's been discharged before I think she probably should have been. And then you worry about passing something on to her that she just really, isn't in a position to be able to have at the moment, I suspect. And actually, I think last night, and this is what I mean about sometimes when people just take control of the situation for you, it can make it easier for you.
Yeah.
When Boris did say last night, do you know what, if you're in a vulnerable position, just stay at home for 12 weeks and reduce everything other than necessary social contact, in a way that actually took some relief, took some of the burden off me and my husband, who were thinking, how are we going to manage this? We still desperately want to see our parents, but we don't want to put them at risk, so how can we take steps to not put them at risk? Whereas now it's like, do you know what, we're just not going to see them, and although that's not great, there are other things we can do, and we'll just have to maintain contact in ways that we can do, and at least they're safe.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. My parents were going to come up to see us in a few weeks' time, but because my sister had sort of a freak out, and they were going to stay in a travel lodge, and I really wouldn't recommend people going into hotels over the next couple of weeks. So they stayed in an Airbnb in a place out of town, and we got that out of the way, and they went yesterday back home. We're going to obviously video chat with the girls and do those kind of things. It was a real change in, just a massive change in the way. But obviously the fact that we have these tools now are very useful. Just quickly, just while we're on the subject of video calls and everything, when people are signing for you, when they have to witness, can they be a friend or neighbour, or do they have to be somebody from, like, for example, from your office, or does it have to be like a legal?
It has to be somebody independent to that person, so they can't be a beneficiary of the will. They can't be having a benefit from that estate on the person's death. They have to be over 18, of sound mind. A friend or a neighbour or a colleague is a great option, and we will certainly be offering that service where we can offer it, appreciating that sometimes people are worried about even coming into contact with other people at the moment. Yeah.
So the first step, though, they can go quite far down the line preparing this all completely online and over the phone and over email.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's a reassuring thing for people to know.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, I'd never thought about doing a will. When my girlfriend had to take ownership of her dad's, or to sell his boat and close his accounts down and stuff like that. And it really was actually quite a mess. So in these troubling times, it is good to have a little bit of calmness and continuity there.
Yeah, and as I said, I think sometimes taking that control is, because it's what you can do. You reassure yourself in just taking that step and doing the things that you can do. You have that within your control. You can do it. So why not? Loads of us are meant to get around to it for a long time anyway. Isn't it always one of those things that's on everyone's to-do list and you never quite get there?
Definitely.
It's one of the things you can actually tick off now. And a lot of us have a lot of downtime to do it. So.
Yeah. Have you got any plans are you just taking it day by day at the moment? Do you have any plans to sort of close or suspend any operations or minimise the staff size or anything like that?
We're daily hoping that we won't have to, but oh my goodness me, isn't it a day by day situation?
Yeah.
I thought we had it all planned out yesterday, and then more changes at 5 o'clock last night.
Right.
So it does feel a bit like every day you just don't quite know what will come, but certainly as things stand at the minute, we're not making any changes to anything that we do in terms of the services that we offer. We're just trying to offer them in a different way.
Yeah, no, that's good. I see a lot of things on LinkedIn about people adapting a lot of more remote work, and a lot of people just actually coming together to sort of to share their views and maybe set some minds at ease and everything. So it is good to see that. I mean, it's people say they things like this bring out the best and the worst in people, don't they? So
I have a feeling that society will split into two sort of groups in the next few months, or certainly I kind of hope that this is the way it goes.
Oh yeah.
That people will either be vulnerable and need to be protected, and people that are not in that category will realise that they then have to be relied on to step up and help the people who can no longer help themselves to some degree.
Yeah, definitely.
I really hope that is what happens, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of it already, like you say, and it's nice to see, as well as some of the things that are going on social media. I've seen a lot of community groups being set up on Facebook, people offering to go shopping for people that can't leave the house to go and do things like that themselves. So there is some nice things out there.
Yeah, definitely.
That give us all a bit of hope amongst the other stuff that is really difficult to try and absorb.
Yeah.
I just can't believe the sheer volume of news. It's unbelievable. I can't keep up with the amount of things that are coming out, stories that are dropping, and it can start to feel really overwhelming when it's just so much news coming at you. We need that reassurance. It's really good listening to some experts talking about it. Some people saying that we're not far off from drugs that can remove the symptoms, and obviously then somebody else will then say that we're a year and a half away from a vaccine. 18 months away, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, obviously we can do what we can. The message obviously is just sort of is unity. I think I'm going to. I have a pretty good relationship with my neighbours, and a lot of them are elderly too. So I think I'll just grab all of their phone numbers and check in from time to time via text or over the fence. But we're going to be staying out of everybody's way at the moment, I think.
I think everyone's doing that. I think everything that I had in, all the tickets to things that I've got, all the events that are planned. I was supposed to be at a wedding on Saturday.
Wow.
I can just see those things just coming out of Canada and people going, they just can't happen at the moment. I mean, things like weddings and events that people have been planning for a long time is so sad.
Yeah.
But other things, I just think the whole nation has just sort of accepted, we just can't go out and about and do things for 12 weeks other than the essentials. And yeah, I am of the same opinion that I would like to be a person that is in a position to reach out to others and say, we can help you.
That's good. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be reassured.
Yes.
Obviously, our economy is pretty sound compared to obviously everywhere else. Hopefully with the right leadership, irrespective of whether you're left or right, red or blue, we all have to come together at some point. Obviously, just to say when there's a clear issue with the way we see their guidance, but also for people to listen to these views in terms of staying inside, doing what you can. Literally, just being somebody who's not going to go out and spread it is a valuable thing in itself.
Yes.
So from then on, anything else you can do to help your neighbours, I think it brings out that fight or flight. So I understand the idea behind hoarding and the panic buying. We just need to sort of cut down some of the selfishness and then look for others. But I think that will come, and hopefully we'll come out of this, as you say, in a maybe a more streamlined way. And we'll all have to learn from it.
Yeah, I think so. I can't imagine what will happen, but I can't imagine what the world landscape will look like in a few months' time at the moment. But I am interested to see some of the ways that people come up with for entertaining themselves over the next few months, of ways that they can reach out to others and ways that they can make other people's lives a little bit better, given some of the difficulties that we've all got. And I think it'll be interesting to see how we all adapt to the ways that we work, that home working becomes embraced, that we all accept that we don't maybe have to get in a car and go meet somebody face to face for a meeting. Maybe we can just use remote facilities where possible, which in turn is better for the environment, saves us all a lot of time in our day if we don't have to get in a car and travel somewhere.
Yes, definitely. Lots of
I think there'll be
meetings.
a lot of things that could, a lot of things will happen that will actually have a much bigger knock-on effect.
Yeah, but we can't even imagine at this point.
Can't even imagine it. Yeah, can't even imagine it. But I mean, how the high street will change, which has already been in some serious difficulty, I don't know.
I know, yeah. Very.
I feel for companies that at the moment having to make decisions about whether reputationally the right thing to do is stay open when that risks you being criticised for staying open.
Right, yes. And in this sense, because we haven't been told to shut down, People are staying open and, you know, having to employ staff where there's no one there and falling behind and not getting insurance. It's a very strange time. It'll be interesting to see how this conversation ages, because in 2 days' time, everything you've said will be completely out the window. So, but I'll try and edit this and get this out as soon as possible. Thanks for talking to me today. I actually, strangely enough, I do feel calmer and more reassured just from speaking to you about your continuing on and you're providing these services. How is it best for people to contact you or learn more about Countrywide?
So we do have a website. I myself, I'm on LinkedIn, obviously. We have a company page on LinkedIn.
Sure.
Yeah, we're very findable on Google and all of the search engines. Countrywide Tax and Trust Corporation.
Brilliant. I'll link everything up in the description. It was a real pleasure speaking to you today, Charlotte, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Like you say, it's nice to know we're all... It's just nice to know sometimes that there's other people in the same situation. Like, you're all in it together at the end of the day. And at least you're not alone.
Definitely. Okay, great. Well, have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon.
You too. All right, I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks very much. Bye now.